All right, everyone. The voice of college football firing up another live stream here at Mark Rogers TV. Yes, we are the voice of college football, bringing on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. That, of course, means one of our stellar contributors, one of our top guests, one of our originals, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Also, his show, The Way It Is, Fox 97.9. Stephen, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. I appreciate the love there, Mark. Not used to being introduced in that way, but appreciating the love there.
Of course. A lot of love for you. You have done a remarkable job for me. So, Stephen, take in these numbers. The first half of 2017 here at Mark Rogers TV, we had 1,300 comments come into the YouTube channel. 1,300 first half last year. First half this year, over 17,000. So that's mainly due to guys like you.
I feel happy to be a part of a growing, successful art of conversation.
Yeah, that's like a 15 times growth. So thank you, Stephen. Thanks to the folks on the live chat. That doesn't even include the hundreds of comments we get every time we strike up the live stream. Those are comments on the videos themselves once they post. All right, let's talk some Alabama football. SEC football media days are just 5 days away, people. So if you're maybe a typical college football fan that's obviously watching the games, even watches spring practice, gets into recruiting, but not necessarily media days, you may want to this year just to get started on that part of the college football season. It's almost for us media guys the start of the college football season. It's the kickoff, and the SEC always opens before everyone else. Now, for some reason, a couple other Power 5 conferences, the Big 12 and the ACC, have chosen to move themselves into the SEC week. I don't necessarily know that that's the brightest move, but that's their decision. But the SEC still the king of the hill, arguably on the field, but it's not a debate when it comes to the grand stage of SEC football media days, and we'll get to that in just a second. But Stephen will hopefully be able to join us sometime next week. A couple linebackers are down for different reasons, so this was a sore spot late in the season, obviously, when Alabama was making its push to the college football playoff. People got healthy and ready to go for the college football playoff run against Clemson and Georgia, but a couple linebackers already down again for differing reasons here, Stephen, in the last week.
Absolutely. And one of the two guys, we look at Vondarius Cowan, a 5-star linebacker from the Florida area, a guy that has tremendous talent at 6'4", 236 pounds. A guy that when you watch him on the field kind of reminds you of a Reuben Foster meets Tim Williams type of player. Just tremendous ability, great skill set, but attitude not all there yet. There were some red flags about Vondarius during his high school time. He would be dismissed from his high school football team prior to coming to Alabama. Nick Saban still choosing to take a flyer on the young man and bringing him in for the 2017 signing class. And unfortunately, the red flags moved from high school to the collegiate level. He got into some situations where broke a couple of team rules. And then on June the 23rd, there was a video that surfaced with him at a bar off the campus. While at the bar off the campus, he punched a guy in the face, and guy had to get 7 stitches put in. So Nick Saban finds out about that, and immediately Vondarius Cowan dismissed from the program. Great talent, just has to get himself in order. Great talent, just got to get himself in order in terms of the middle aspect. But the other guy, you have Terrell Lewis, who a lot of people felt like projected to get 8 to 10 sacks last season, got hurt against Florida State, comes back, had a huge performance in the college football playoff, especially against Georgia national championship game, sacking Jake Fromm. And from that, a lot of fans felt like he was going to be up for a monster year, was going to have a monster season. Unfortunately, on Tuesday, hearing word from Coach Saban, torn anterior cruciate ligament in his right knee, out for right now. Don't know when he'll be back. He could be back potentially, maybe in the month of October if he's able to take well to the rehab. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, Bondarius Cowan dismissed for personal reasons. Terrell Lewis out right now with the knee.
All right, Stephen, 2 linebackers down. And as we mentioned, that was a typical Alabama issue during the stretch run of November last year in trying to prepare for the college football playoff. It was the linebacker situation that got much acclaim based on the injuries that took it down. But they got healthy and made the championship run, of course, last year. So we've got already dozens and dozens of comments on YouTube, Facebook. I just kind of do this off to the side here, but it's interesting to see who jumps on Facebook as well. So if you're a serious college football fan, you're watching me right now on Facebook. There's a few people there. Go to MarkRogersTV.com. Check out the live stream on YouTube, and you can actually see it where it somewhat looks professional, and you've got the live chat fired up. Of course, we've got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line to talk Tide with SEC Football Media Days coming up next Monday. And of course, you can join us, Stephen, not only on Touchdown Alabama, but on his show, The Way It Is, Fox 97.9. This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, where we bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. And of course, analysis from myself as well. All right. Recruiting the lifeblood, of course, of this program, 20 commits for 2019. Stephen, what has been the latest?
Well, what's been the latest right now? Alabama trying to land Desalen Worsham, a wide receiver for 2020. I know it recently just picked up a defensive lineman from the state of Mississippi for the 2020 class. But as of 2019, 20 commitments as of right now, 7 more to go as the Crimson Tide look to bring in 27 guys. And Pierce Quick, the 2019 offensive lineman out of Hewitt-Trussville High School, has done an unbelievable job. I remember at this point in time last year, Alabama had 4 guys committed, 4. And the Crimson Tide Nation was perplexed, confused, upset, bothered, agitated. You can throw any other adjective into the fray there.
Well, let me get this straight, Stephen. They were upset, they were bothered, they were agitated, they were irritated.
They were, because you had 4 commitments, and they're wondering what's going on. Has Saban lost the edge? Has Saban lost mojo? Are these kids not trying to come to Alabama? You know how they are, Mark. When you look at guys that want to see a particular group of guys go to a particular school. But Pierce Quick was the first guy to commit for 2019, and right after he did that, he goes and he says, "Look, I'm going to make this the best class of the Nick Saban era." And my goodness, has he done that? He has single-handedly brought in, 17 to 19 guys with this class, including, a couple of 5-star guys. When you look at this offensive line for just a minute here, Mark, you've got Pierce Star, you've got Amari Kyle, Alabama, Thompson High School in Alabama. He's a 5-star. You got Tanner Bowles from Kentucky. He's a high 4-star, about to get that 5th star. And then you got those 3 guys. You're trying to land Clay Webb, another offensive lineman who's being looked at as a possible guard and or center. He's a 5-star. If the Crimson Tide can land Clay Webb, you're looking at a 5-star offensive line. And that's something that Alabama has never had under Nick Saban, has never had in the history of the program. And honestly, that's probably an unprecedented mark in college football. Can't think of a team right now that has recruited a 5-star offensive line. So you're one guy away, and during that, Alabama can land Clay Webb. That's a big deal. So to go from having 4 guys committed in 2018 to have 20 in the following year, this coaching staff has really done an outstanding job. And the guy that's been on the trail the most has been Josh Gaddis, 34 years of age. Coach Gaddis coming from Penn State, where he served as wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator. The players really love him. They have really gravitated to him. I've heard from a couple of close sources I know. It's deeper than coaching for Coach Gaddis. He has a love for players. He has a love for life. And these guys are feeding off of what he is telling them. So Josh Gaddis, Dan Enos, guys like Tosh Lapoy, the coaches are really hitting this recruiting trail hard, and to have 20 prior to February coming in, big jump in your favor.
So whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, you can hear that our guy Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama is a virtual encyclopedia when it comes to Alabama and by extension the SEC. And hopefully his feed's not breaking down on us. Stephen, you with us?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you. Okay.
You got me?
Very good. So I'm going to go to the live chat here on YouTube. There's tons of questions, but I'll pick out a few. So Country Boy is asking Stephen, since we're on the subject of recruiting, why Alabama doesn't recruit the state of Alabama as much as he would like them to. Is there any validity to that?
That's a good question. And the 2019 class, this was the first cycle where Nick Saban has actually gone after a lot more Alabama kids than usual. I mean, I understand the coaching staff he has. Tosh Lapoy's from the West Coast. You've got Dan Enos, who's got roots in Arkansas and other areas. Josh Gaddis has roots in Pennsylvania. Jeff Banks has roots in Texas. Carl Scott has roots in Texas, coming from Texas Tech. So you have guys that have pull from everywhere in the country, but that's a good question. And I thought the same thing. I mean, why not hone in on your home state where you got a lot of these 4- and 5-star talented kids, a couple of 3 stars too, but those 3 stars can ball. Those 3 stars can absolutely play. So that's a question even I myself am starting to dig into a lot more of your state. But once again, Nick Saban, getting the coaches that he has on staff, he likes to expand the territory, as you know, the whole manifest destiny thing, take over the West, start out West, and then bring it back to the South before D branch more so to the West Coast and other areas. But I would love to see of starting off at home, getting that homegrown talent from Birmingham, Montgomery, and other places.
Stephen, your feed's a little bit shaky. Hopefully people can hear you and see you, but mostly hear you. Not that we don't want to see the pearly whites, but mostly hear you. But I think we're in good shape, I hope, right now. So I'm going to go back to the chat. A lot of Ohio State fans, for some reason, jumped on the Alabama live stream tonight. So they're poking fun at whatever else would be maybe some weaker Alabama wins last year, and Ohio State beating the likes of Penn State, Wisconsin, and Michigan State. But that's old news. We've addressed that many times.
I always get Buckeye Nation. I either get Buckeye Nation or Oklahoma coming at me.
Are those the two fan bases that don't like you? Well, Oklahoma, they feel really good about what happened at the Sugar Bowl a few years ago, of course, when they were a 2-touchdown underdog. And I think they won a game against a really bad Alabama team about 15 years ago, sometime in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So they've had their way with Alabama the last couple of times on the field. I think they should feel fortunate that they've hit Alabama at the right times. And certainly that team that they beat in 2013 was a tremendous team. We've talked about it many times. Maybe they didn't have that killer instinct or edge near the end of the season, but let's not mistake ourselves that team was a kick six, a miracle play away from playing again in the SEC title game that they would have won most likely by a lot, and then on to the national championship game. So it wasn't like it was a disaster there for Alabama, but it didn't look good in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma. But yeah, Oklahoma and Ohio State fans apparently coming after one Stephen M. Smith. All right, sir. So we've got, as we mentioned, SEC Football Media Days starting up. as the unofficial kickoff for us hardcore media people, fans that love college football. Starts next Monday with Damian Harris, Ross Pierschbaker, and we've got Anthony Jennings. So those were the selections by Nick Saban. Any particular reason why you think those three were selected? All right, Stephen, if you can hear me, I think your feed's locked up. And if you can just drop out and come right back. Or if you're back.
First and foremost, Mark, those guys.
Oh, okay. Boy. All right. Stephen has left us. And I will go to the live chat and see what I can find. All right. So Ohio State, Alabama trash talking. Buckeye State Sports, who's their big game this year? Western Carolina. Mercer. Okay. All right. Let's understand that Alabama did schedule Facebook, YouTube. They did schedule Florida State last year. They couldn't help that DeAndre Francois was crushed. They do play football out there, and Alabama plays it pretty physically and knocked him out for the season. And they didn't turn out to be the team that we expected. They probably would have been a 9-3 or 10-2 team. So Alabama, my knock on Alabama scheduling is not necessarily who they schedule, although it will be coming up with this Louisville game and then Duke. That's the big game next year, Duke. That's the big Alabama non-conference game. And the excuse is always, you don't know how good the team's going to be when you schedule the game 5 years in advance. We know Duke is not going to be Clemson. We know that Duke is not going to be Oklahoma or USC. And then Alabama will not travel anywhere. Now, I think that's going to change coming up with a date at, I forget where they're going. I was about to say Penn State. No, it's Texas. They're going to travel once in like 20 years to go to Texas to play a home-and-home series with the Longhorns. But the two knocks I have on Alabama scheduling is that they need to schedule a heavyweight every year. And yes, if you schedule USC and then they turn out to be no good that particular year, we're not going to blame you for that. But if you're scheduling Louisville or Duke, there is a possibility that they're not going to be one of the 10 or 15 best teams in the country. That's the one knock. The number two knock is that they always play in Dixie. They don't travel anywhere. Even going to Texas isn't much of a trip. Go out to the West Coast, go to Big Ten country, like Auburn will be going to Penn State for a home-and-home soon. That will be fun to watch. So Alabama, do that, and I'll be a little bit more satisfied with the scheduling. I don't mind Alabama playing the FCS school. They shouldn't play two of them. They've been playing two FCS games, the one in September, of course, and then the second one before the Iron Bowl, and people are hot and bothered by the second FCS game. But the reason that one doesn't bother me necessarily in terms of the placement of the game is because Auburn also has a light touch before the Iron Bowl. So, Stephen, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I got you. So okay. I was responding to many shots that people on the live chat were taking at Alabama scheduling. Okay, my take, Stephen, is that Alabama generally schedules a heavyweight. It's been USC, it's been Virginia Tech, it's been, of course, Florida State last year. They couldn't help that they were physically dominant in the fourth quarter of that Florida State game, ran away with it, and hurt DeAndre Francois. And, of course, Florida State didn't turn in the season we expected them to. They can't help that. I will knock them on the Louisville and more than that, the Duke scheduling, because we know that those will not be national title type contending teams. Them playing an FCS the week before Auburn, I don't necessarily have a huge issue with it because it's not an unfair advantage because Auburn does the same thing. So if they were playing a Mercer or Western Carolina the week before Auburn and Auburn had to play Mississippi State, well, that's a huge advantage, but that doesn't happen. So I don't have an issue with that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about the scheduling, but I have an issue with the two FCS games and the Duke scheduling in a year from now. I believe it's in 2020 or 2019. I'm not crazy about that game.
Not crazy about the Duke game either. I mean, David Cutcliffe and the Blue Devils have had some decent seasons, but you really want to schedule a game where you know you're going to get quality competition, and 2019 against Duke will not be quality. However, the following year against Miami, that will be the game I'll watch.
Sure. All right. So I think we lost you right about the time that we were getting your thoughts on the selections by one Nick Saban of who would attend from his roster the SEC football media days. So again, if you could run down those players and let the people know who aren't in tune with these media days. Of course, you've covered them for years. I did back in the day when I was a much younger man and went to the SEC football media days. Why these players are selected and the significance of the selection.
Well,
you're still laughing at that comment, aren't you?
Were selected, my man. We look at Damian Harris, offensive lineman Ross Pierschbaker, and linebacker Anthony Jennings. And the reason why Saban, those three guys, you look at the leadership they have. Damian Harris coming into his senior year, two-time that could have left for the NFL, chose to come back, and he's got a chance at history in a third consecutive 1,000-yard season. You look at Ross Pierschbaker, who's played 42 career games at left guard. He's going to his first year playing center. Last year didn't quite work, but I think next of it, he's a line, very smart, very savvy. And Anthony Jennings, putting this guy 3-star to being probably one of the pass on the front. The college football playoffs, comes in huge tackles for loss, a sack, and forced an interception into the arms of Daron Payne. But the reason why Nick Saban chose those guys, because of their leadership, because of what they do in the locker room, what they do on the field, how they represent the University of Alabama in a first-class way. And a lot of times at SEC media days, you see a lot of teams go with their juniors, their seniors, the guys they can trust, the guys that they know. If we put a camera in front of those guys, we have coached them up enough that they're going to say the right things. Not saying that if you chose to bring a sophomore up there, he's not going to, or if you bring a freshman up there that's wise beyond his years, they're not going to bring a freshman up there. But let's just say you had a guy, 18, 19-year-old kid, Mark, wise beyond his years, who knows? But typically at SEC media days, you want to have a junior or senior that's been through the growing pains, been through the ups and downs, knows how to handle himself on the field, but also himself when the media comes around and they throw you the type of questions but you handle it well, answer the question, you say stuff, but you don't give off too much. And you know how to show up. That's the biggest thing about media days is getting that professional to questions. Before I'm in Southeast, they've had pauses. They've got their different guys in the sports information department that take them through these interview-like drills and take them through the motions of how this is how you answer this question. This is how you go around this question and so forth. So, I mean, that's how it is. You want to have more of your veteran leadership there because they've been through it.
So we'd like to remind everyone that we talk Georgia football here at 8:30 Eastern time with Savannah Lee Richardson of Bulldog Illustrated. Right now we've got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line. You're, of course, watching Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Why are we the voice of college football? No, I'm not an egomaniac. Basically, that means that I do have a voice and I do know what I'm talking about. But we bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. They have a voice. And then you know what? We do these live streams and we provide you a voice as well. So together, We are the voice of college football here at Mark Rogers TV. All right, Stephen, you also have been analyzing a situation in the secondary that could prove to be kind of a key aspect within in terms of playing time for a couple of very talented players. So just kind of explain what you've been looking at concerning maybe some pressure that one Patrick Surtain is placing on someone. Hopefully Steven's still with us. I believe he's frozen up once again.
Patrick Surtain, Jen,
go right ahead, Steven.
And he's been special. Can you hear me now? You got me?
Go ahead, Steven. Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. So, as I was saying, Patrick Surtain has been fantastic in summer workouts. What I've heard from a lot of guys around the program thus far, he's done well in the weight training. He's done well in the 7-on-7 drills, already looks the part at 6'2", 198 pounds. The biggest thing for him right now is just continuing to grow and handle the things that Scott Cochran, Nick Saban, and the rest will put upon him. But the good news is he's already drawing a lot of praise from some of the older guys, the guys like Deontay Thompson, guys like Shaheem Carter. Those guys really like what is brought to the table. And he's really pushing Trayvon Diggs the brink here. Diggs, who came from Maryland in that 2016 class, and defensive back, was a full-on defensive back last season, won the starting job at left corner and fall camp, and you really felt like he was going to blossom in 2017. Got a little bit nervous against Florida State, busted a couple of coverages, and Nick Saban decided to pull him for Levi Wallace, and we all know what happened at the left side for that whole season. So for Trayvon Diggs, it's put up or shut up time for him. He's got to be able to hold spot at left corner and not play it sound. Or not Trayvon Diggs. Pat could take that spot from him. He's being compared to right now. His father, Patrick Surtain, played 11 in the Kansas City Chiefs. Surtain really, in the offseason.
All right, we're on the line with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama, having some transmission problems, but fortunately, I think we've worked all the way through most of our subjects here. So if you're jumping on the live chat here late, and if you're on Facebook, you go to MarkRogersTV.com and you see the actual transmission of the live stream here. We've talked about a couple linebackers that have gone down just in the last few days for Alabama. One getting kicked off the roster, kicked out of the program. The other one injured, and Terrell Lewis with an ACL injury that's serious. 20 commits coming to the Tide here in 2019. We talked about them. SEC Football Media Day starts next Monday, and Stephen outlined for us the three players that are going to be accompanying one Nick Saban to Hoover, Alabama, for the discussions that are going to kick off the season. And then finally, of course, Trayvon Diggs and Patrick Surtain and their role or possible projected role within the Alabama secondary, a unit that's lost a ton of talent from 2017, but rest assured, plenty of 5 and 4 stars waiting in the wings. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. You're always welcome. You have a great time at SEC Football Media Days. Are you going to be down there for the entire time? I think we lost Stephen.
Just Wednesday.
Okay, just Wednesday. Hopefully, when you get back and get settled.
Just Wednesday.
That must be Alabama Day. So I believe Stephen will be with us next Wednesday or Thursday to hopefully.
It is.
Okay. We're on a huge delay here, Stephen, so I'll just let you know. I'll let you go here. But hopefully we can have you back after SEC Football Media Days to talk Alabama and anything else you want to kick around from the SEC media days. All right, Stephen, we will see you soon. You have a great trip, and we'll see you soon. Everybody else on the line, we've got Georgia football talk coming up in 5 minutes with Savannah Lee Richardson of Bulldog Illustrated. And if I've got any power on my cell phone, I will fire up another live stream. And again, my apologies to everybody on Facebook. I'm just setting this up against my laptop. You got to stare at me the whole time and not necessarily see the guest until I flip it around. But we'll do the Facebook Live thing right at some point. The focus on YouTube. And if you want to join the live chat, if you're just a friend, thanks for the support. I appreciate that on Facebook. Most of my friends just jumping on just to say hi for a quick second and then see ya. And I understand if they were talking about needlepoint or something, I would just say hi. Great job. See you later. But if you actually want to join the college football conversation, go to YouTube at MarkRogersTV.com and see us there. All right, we'll be back with Savannah Lee Richardson of Georgia. If you're watching us on YouTube, the link will be coming out, the notification, and you can catch us right there just in a few minutes. See you then.